I maintained an AA marriage with Nash Pei for nearly 50 years. Before his death, Nash Pei left a will stating that all his property would be given to Elle Lee and her child. Only then did I realize, the person I considered my best friend was Nash Pei's first love. Their illegitimate child was even a year older than our son. In this new life, I avoided every possible encounter with him. Since you are heartless, I shall cease to care. From then on, you go your way, and I'll go mine. In his previous life, Nash Pei was a renowned university professor. He had countless outstanding students under his name, and the annual patent royalties amounted to a staggering sum. Every year, Nash Pei would set aside a few months to travel to the United States with his parents. Of course, I was never included. My income couldn't even afford a plane ticket. For decades, I've been the most ordinary housewife, standing behind him, quietly taking care of the family without recognition. I was so frugal that I meticulously recorded every penny from grocery shopping, just to make his accounting easier. Once, at the vegetable market, I argued with a vendor over 2 missing dimes in my change. I laid out each item from my basket on the ground to dispute with him. A bunch of scallions for 3 yuan, these few garlic bulbs for 4.60, celery for 8.70, totaling 15.60. I gave you 20, you returned 4.20, but you're still short 2 dimes. In the early morning market, a sweaty vegetable vendor, apologizing while disdainfully pulling out a 50-cent coin from the cash box and tossing it to me. "Auntie, why don't you calculate how much that bunch of cilantro I gave you is worth? Forget it, here you go, hurry up and leave. I've got so many customers waiting to settle their bills." I picked up the crumpled 50-cent coin from the muddy road and clenched it tightly in my hand. Familiar neighbors and the nanny from Nash Pei's colleague's family were pointing fingers at me. Living on the 2nd floor, Teacher Lee looked at me with mockery in her eyes. "Mrs. Pei, these small change aren't even worth a single word from Professor Pei's copyrighted books. Why are you being so petty?" Clutching the 50-cent bill in my hand, my face flushed red, but I remained silent. Under the ambiguous gazes of the vendors and others, "Lower your head and walk quickly past, no one knows." My 40-plus years of marriage with Nash Pei is old-fashioned, yet we live the trendiest AA system of today. From the first day of marriage, every thread I brought into the Pei household, to daily groceries, buying a house, having children, hosting banquets, all expenses, Nash Pei insisted I shoulder half. He glorified it as admiring my uniqueness as a woman who isn't materialistic. On the day my son was born, I was still immersed in the joy of becoming a mother. Nash Pei walked into the ward. Impeccably dressed, he placed a payment slip by my bedside. Softly, he stated, "Nova Shin, here are all the receipts, totaling $32.50. You can just give me $16 when we get home." I nodded as usual. "All right, I'll give it to you when I get back." The second day after returning from the hospital, after Nash Pei urged me for the 3rd time, I went back to my parents' home to borrow $20 to repay him. If I may say, at first, I was drawn to Nash Pei's life-saving grace and his courteous demeanor. Later, our marriage became merely a matter of habit. I knew deep down that this way of life with him might not be quite right, yet I couldn't quite put my finger on what exactly was wrong, just subconsciously hiding it from my maternal family. It's laughable to say, in the same year Nash Pei was in the U.S., splurging on a lakeside mansion for Elle Lee, on the very evening he attended my father's 80th birthday celebration. He still insisted we split the cost of that $288 cake. After graduating from university, my son went to work in Haicheng, finding a partner, getting married, and buying a house. As a renowned professor in the country, Nash Pei didn't offer a single cent of support. He argued self-righteously, every generation must find its own way. I made it on my own, why can't he, wanting to sponge off his parents? How shameful. Later, Elle Lee proudly said by my hospital bed, "All of Nash's money belongs to me and Rudy. How dare your son covet it?" Pei Rudy, the son of Nash Pei and Elle Lee. "Nash Pei, you're truly something." What made me most despairing was, all of Nash Pei's family members were aware of the existence of Elle Lee and her child. My mother-in-law, Wang Lan, made annual trips to the U.S. under the pretext of recuperation, but in reality, it was to visit Elle Lee and her child. They took it for granted to treat me as free domestic labor, and naturally, My son was not their first choice as the primary heir, so Nash Pei's dying will showed no regard for my position or dignity. He transferred all his assets, leaving the copyrights to Elle Lee and her child. On a stormy, snow-laden night, I was cast out penniless, left to wander the streets. My heart was filled with bitterness and resentment, especially when I saw the jade bracelet on Elle Lee's wrist. It was part of my dowry. I spat out a mouthful of blood on the spot. I still remember. When I first married into the Pei family, Nash Pei's younger sister, Pei Yonan, took a liking to my bracelet at first sight. Pestering her mother-in-law and Nash Pei, she resorted to tears, tantrums, and even threats of suicide. She stubbornly insisted on getting her way. What did Nash Pei say? Nova Shin. As the elder sister-in-law, you should treat Yonan as your own younger sister. I never expected them to present the bracelet to Elle Lee as if it were their own gift. While Elle Lee and I were wrestling on the ground, I scraped my wrist, a drop of blood dripped into the jade bracelet, and we both fell into a strange space. Hidden here were all kinds of precious gold bars and antique calligraphy and paintings. Elle Lee was in a panic. She screamed hoarsely, "This is mine, don't you dare take it." As she spoke, she climbed on top of me and pressed down on my throat, exerting force with a ferocious expression. Suddenly, it all made sense to me. This jade bracelet actually contains an otherworldly space. In particular, the seals on several wooden chests are identical to the treasure I discovered in a mountain cave when I was 18. That scumbag Nash Pei has been fooling around with Elle Lee all along. It was him. He stole and hid all that treasure. So, when I reported to the government staff that there were cultural relics in the cave on the back mountain, not only was I not rewarded, but I was also criticized by the town and made into a negative example. Everyone accused me of being vain, especially my sister-in-law, Song Yonan. She said disdainfully, "Nova Shin, you just can't stand to see my brother doing so well, so you're deliberately making a scene." Except for my family. Everyone thought I made it up just to win Nash Pei's favor. Only those who have wronged me know how deeply hurt I am. In a daze, tears streamed down my face. If there is an afterlife, Nash Pei, I never want to see you again. When I found myself reborn at the age of 18, I was both shocked and overjoyed. At 18, my entire being was brimming with vibrant energy. "Nova Shin, are you home?" A deliberately affected voice came from outside the door. I suddenly stood up. "Is that Elle Lee coming?" My mom responded casually and went to open the door. Elle Lee walked into the room, wearing a light yellow dress with 2 long braids draped over her shoulders. Every household was surviving on coarse food, and everyone's complexion was sallow. Yet this orphan girl, fostered at her uncle's home, had a rosy glow that made her stand out in the crowd, with her large, dewy eyes twinkling. Elle Lee enthusiastically invited me to go to the town to watch a movie. I remember, in my past life, it was at the cinema entrance that Elle Lee led me into a quiet alley. When a few ill-intentioned thugs approached, Nash Pei stepped forward to protect me. From that moment on, I fell in love with him at first sight, especially later, when Elle Lee mentioned that although Nash Pei came from a poor family, he was determined and talented despite his hardships. I managed to finish high school on my own and am about to start college soon. Under her ulterior-motivated arrangements, Nash Pei and I quickly got engaged and married. The whole family did everything they could to support him. In my past life, while Nash Pei kept sweet-talking me, saying, "Nova Shin, this family is so lucky to have you," taking the money I worked so hard for and letting Elle Lee squander it, he kept all of his own money, saving it for other purposes. I, this fool, was blinded by his words and never resisted. Elle Lee liked Nash Pei but looked down on his poverty and refused to be a village wife in the countryside. So, she came up with an idea. Find a gullible benefactor to support both Nash Pei and her. Once Nash Pei achieved success, they would then kick this benefactor to the curb. Later, Nash Pei relied on gifting antique calligraphy and paintings from the cave, climbing from a minor clerk to a renowned professor. For the sake of reputation, he could no longer openly acknowledge Elle Lee and her child, so he gave all his money to Elle Lee. For me and our son, he only provided 300 yuan per month for living expenses. When Elle Lee, with a coquettish smile, asked me again if I wanted to go to the movies with her, I flatly refused. "No, I have a headache, you go by yourself." With that, I turned over and lay down without saying another word. Elle Lee was a bit angry. She bit her lip, waiting for me to comfort her as usual. Seeing that I didn't respond, she stomped her foot angrily and ran out. In her previous life, she took advantage of me quite a bit. She coaxed me with pitiful looks and sweet-talked me out of all the fabric and food my uncle and aunt in the city had sent me. The dress she was wearing just now was actually the one my uncle had sent me a few days ago. Lee's eyes lit up when she saw it. Tearfully exclaiming that she had never worn such beautiful clothes before, she begged me to lend it to her for a few days. Once lent, it was never returned. This time, without me being the fool, I'd like to see who will support her and Nash pay. After Lee left, I cozied up to my mother, acting spoiled. At that time, my mother still had a full head of dark hair, not the careworn look she would later have from worrying about me. In my past life, I sought help from my family more than once. I drained my parents and brother of their entire savings to support that ungrateful Nash Pay family. Thinking of the jade bracelet space from my past life, I decided to strike first, so I coquettishly pestered my mom. Mom, I know Grandma left you a jade bracelet. Since it's going to be mine anyway, why not give it to me sooner? Mom playfully tapped my forehead and teased, so eager to get married already, I refused to let it go. Finally, my mother couldn't resist my persistence and turned to take out a small box from the camphor chest. Opening it, I saw it was the jade bracelet that Nash Pay had tricked me out of in my previous life. I couldn't wait to return to my room and cut my finger to let the blood drip. After a familiar moment of dizziness, to my delight, the supplies I saw in my past life within the space have all returned with me. Not only are there valuable gold, silver, and jade artifacts, but also currently scarce food items like bread, cakes, and chocolates. I must thank Lee for her foresight. It has worked to my advantage. With this space, I will never again let my opportunities slip through my fingers. Thinking of the cave on the back mountain, I hurriedly put on my shoes and, taking advantage of the evening light, felt my way up the indistinct mountain path. After gathering all the items from the cave into my space, I let out a long sigh of relief. In my past life, a newspaper once mentioned, when the Japanese army was defeated back then, they hid all the precious supplies they couldn't take with them in a certain place in the mountains, but the mountains were too vast, and many people never found them. I stumbled upon them by accident, triggering an inconspicuous mechanism, which led me to fall into this cave. Since this is not the future, these precious artifacts can only stay in the space for the time being. I will never go easy on Nash Pay and Lee again. After being reborn, I completely changed my previous personality. I read and reread the high school textbooks my uncle and aunt had someone bring back for me. My parents were heartbroken, but my brother said, let her be. Maybe Nova can be the first college student in our family. Little did I know, in this life, I didn't go to the mountain, but the mountain came to me. I went to town with my mom to visit relatives. Just as we reached the village entrance, I heard a familiar greeting, Nova Shin, over here. Looking up, I realized it was an awkward encounter. Of all people, it had to be them. Lee and Nash Pay stood stiffly under the tree at the village entrance, staring intently at me. The current Nash Pay lacked the composed and commanding demeanor he had in his previous life as a professor. When he looked down on everything from his high position, he wore clothes covered in patches. Looking uneasy and awkward, Lee cheerfully said to me, Nova Shin, this is the person I wanted to introduce to you. She pointed at me again and said to Nash Pay, classmate Pay, this is Nova. I hope the two of you can become companions from now on. Damn. Even the matchmaking god isn't as eager to pair people up as Lee, forcing matches whether they fit or not. The flames of curiosity among the aunties at the village entrance burned fiercely. Nash Pay gave a proud, confident smile and extended his hand. Nova, let's go for a walk in the park together. I'm utterly fed up, responded coldly. No time, we're not close. Please address me as Comrade Shin. Nash Pay was taken aback by my frosty demeanor. Lee reproached me unhappily, saying, Nova Shin, you mustn't judge by appearances. Classmate Pay is outstanding. He's intelligent, diligent, and studious. You can't just judge by appearances and ignore a person's heart. I didn't expect you to be so snobbish. As the words fell, the expressions of the aunties at the village entrance instantly darkened. Everyone began whispering and discussing among themselves. Nash Pay's previously gloomy face turned smug in an instant. He said with great confidence, Right, after we get married, you'll have to change this habit of despising the poor and favoring the rich. I don't like girls who are too materialistic, I sneered, thinking, in your dreams, before I could speak. Our neighbor Aunt Wang cut in. Who do you think you are? How dare you talk nonsense here? Everyone knows our Nova is not only polite but also a hard worker. There are plenty of good young men in the village lining up to meet Nova. How dare you point fingers here? Who do you think you are? Nash Pei's face turned alternately red and white in an instant. His face turned ashen as he left behind the words, ignorant villagers, not worth speaking with, before quickly walking away. The next day, while I was reviewing my lessons at home, Li showed up uninvited. Without knocking, she barged into the room and began accusing me. Nova Shin. I introduced you to someone as a friend. How could you be so ungrateful? Brother was furious. He put down the bamboo basket in his hands and said gruffly, who do you think you are to criticize our Nova? Is this your home? Li's face turned red from the scolding. She stomped her foot in anger and said fiercely, fine, if that's how it is, then from now on I'll act like you're not my friend anymore. Wait, I put down the textbook in my hand. When are you going to return the dress you borrowed from me? Li panicked. She couldn't understand why I, who had always been obedient to him, suddenly changed my temperament. She nervously tugged at her braid, looking around and avoiding the topic. What skirt? I don't know anything about it. It's too late. I need to go home for dinner. Let's leave it at that. With that, she was about to leave. I spoke slowly and deliberately. If you don't return it, I'll have no choice but to go to your house and ask your grandparents and uncle for it. As soon as I said this, Li turned around and glared at me with a dark expression. She gritted her teeth and said, Nova Shin, you're something else. It's just a stupid dress. I'll take it off and give it back to you when I get home. I nodded and said, make sure it's clean. If there's even a speck of dirt or damage, I'll still go to your family for compensation. Li clenched her teeth and nodded in agreement. The next day, after receiving the returned dress, I carefully inspected it. No damage or stains. Come to think of it, Li cherished this dress dearly. After all, there were only a few like it in the entire county. In her past life, she wore this dress with such charm while walking down the street, captivating the hearts of many young girls. The portrait Nash Pei once drew on paper was wearing this exact color. When I asked who he had drawn, he suppressed his impatience and replied, just someone I saw in a book. I casually gave that dress to the older sister next door. Aunt Wang was overjoyed and kept thanking me, saying the older sister wore the balaji, a Russian-style dress, to a blind date with a worker from the city's textile factory. The young man took a fancy to her at first sight. From now on, my sister will be marrying into the city, thanks to the space program. Our whole family has been living quite comfortably these past 2 years. In my past life, my parents worried themselves sick over me. My brother even went out to carry loads for others to scrape together money to sustain my marriage. I thought that after Nash Pei achieved fame and success, we could break free from this twisted relationship. One year, my brother fell seriously ill, and my sister-in-law came begging for help. I couldn't come up with the money, so I had no choice but to ask Nash Pei for it. 30,000 yuan meant nothing to Nash Pei at the time. However, after finishing the dishes I specially prepared for him, braised duck with fermented tofu, red-cooked fish, and stir-fried bamboo shoots, Nash Pei calmly wiped his mouth and firmly refused. He said, Nova Shin, that's your family. You should figure it out yourself. I'm already exhausted every day. You can't do anything for me, and now you want to drag me down too. I was utterly ashamed. Twisting the hem of my clothes, I kept explaining, it's just a loan. I'll pay it back. Nash Pei dismissed it with disdain. Pay back? With what? On your 600 yuan monthly salary as a cleaner, it'll take forever to pay it off. Later, my brother didn't have enough money for the surgery. One leg was permanently disabled, and since then, my sister-in-law has cut off all contact with me. Yet even so, in my past life, when she learned I was living on the streets, my sister-in-law and my brother went out searching for me on crutches, only to be struck by a speeding car and dragged under its wheels. The book says, when you see injustice, add stones to the well. So, when I saw Nash Pei's mother coming to the village with an angry look, asking for Li's address, I decisively gave her directions. I heard, Nash Pei only managed to go to college because his mother borrowed money from all the neighbors. In less than half a year, She was reported and advised to leave school because she went dancing at a dance hall with Elle Lee. These past 2 days, Elle Lee's home has been in complete chaos. Originally, Elle Lee's parents had both passed away, and she was living with her uncle's family. Her aunt strongly opposed her going to college, as she had already found a match for Elle Lee, with a bride price of 300 yuan. Elle Lee agreed at the time, but after the betrothal gifts were given, she simply stole the money and went off to college. In my past life, it was Nash Pei who tricked me into repaying that money for her. Back then, under my relentless support day and night, Nash Pei had already adopted the refined and proper demeanor of a city dweller. With a solemn expression, he said, "Nova Shin, it's just 300 yuan. Just grit your teeth and help Elle repay it. She's your best friend, and she's utterly helpless. What else can she do?" Yes. Those were the same hands that Elle Lee used to choke me in my past life, such delicate, jade-like fingers. Clearly a sign of a comfortable life and good care. After being fired, Elle Lee was too ashamed to go home. She had no choice but to shamelessly stay at Nash Pei's place for half a month. Originally, the Nash Pei family of 4 was already cramped in a house less than 30 square meters in size. Adding Elle Lee to the mix, with Pei Yonan's 1-2-meter bed now having to accommodate 2 people. She wasn't happy about it. In their past life, the sister-in-law relationship that was once as close as one person could be had now completely turned sour. Elle Lee could endure some disdain and cold treatment. However, she never expected that in order to force her out, Wang Lan simply stopped cooking. The night before last, Elle Lee was so unbearably hungry that she secretly ate half of the white steamed bun that Wang Lan had deliberately hidden away for Pei Yonan. Little did she know, this directly led to Wang Lan kicking her out of the house. Wang Lan pointed at her nose and cursed, "You filthy wretch, shameless slut." Elle Lee, looking aggrieved and fragile, trembled as she lay on the ground outside the house, hoping Nash Pei would speak up for her. To her disappointment, Nash Pei merely lowered his head cowardly, quickly finished the food in his bowl, and returned to his room. That night, Elle Lee sat outside the door, enduring the cold wind all night. Forced and with no other options, she returned to the village filled with fear. But unexpectedly, no sooner had she arrived than Wang Lan came storming after her. She lay at the doorstep of Elle Lee's uncle's house, slapping her legs and wailing, "Heaven has no mercy, whose family raised this thief?" Not only does she shamelessly insist on living in someone else's house without any right, but she also has sticky fingers. Elle Lee's face flushed red. Her originally rosy lips turned deathly pale and trembled uncontrollably. Her aunt looked at her disdainfully and slapped her with a loud smack. She spat out the words, "Disgraceful." Later, after the village chief intervened, it was discovered that after Elle Lee left, Wang Lan went to check the family's food supplies and found a silver ring missing from the jar. That ring was still Grandma Nash Pei's family heirloom. The family didn't have many valuables to begin with, and Wang Lan guarded them as fiercely as her own eyeballs. She had even planned to pass them down to her own daughter. Elle Lee adamantly refused to admit it, shouting that she hadn't taken it. Wang Lan jumped up and glared at her. "Pa, if it wasn't you, then who? No outsiders have come to our house, only you. This worthless tramp." Elle Lee couldn't stand this humiliation and threatened to hang herself. Wang Lan sneered while picking her teeth. "Hurry up then, or you'll miss having your 7th-day memorial ceremony this month." Elle Lee was furious. She pointed with trembling fingers and threatened, "Either compensate me 500 yuan, or I'll report to the police that Nash Pei acted like a hooligan against my will. It was your Nash Pei who dragged me to your house by force." In their past life, the two who were once as loving as mandarin ducks ended up turning against each other. Nash Pei was forced to come and apologize to Elle Lee, while Wang Lan suppressed her fury and pleaded with Elle Lee, "Considering the good times you two once had, how about compensating you with 30 yuan? Elle Lee, in high spirits, spat out, 500 yuan. I'll report to the authorities if even a cent is missing, and your son will face the firing squad." She smugly reveled in the aura of turning the tables, finally holding her head high as if vindicated, and proudly claimed credit before her aunt. "Auntie, I'll hand all the money to you. You were right. I'll marry the son of that deputy food supplies director." The whole family was filled with joy and harmony like never before. In the end, under the gloomy glare of Nash Pei, Elle Lee agreed to pay 200 upfront, with the rest to be covered by an IOU, to be repaid within a year. She carefully handed the signed note to her uncle and aunt, basking in their praise and approval. She had never felt such exhilaration before. She was about to marry into a town family and live a life above the ordinary. Auntie was right after all. A pretty woman should marry a rich man. What does it matter if he's disabled? The main thing is being able to afford white flour buns and meat every day. At first, I thought Nash Pei was a promising catch. Handsome face and literary talent. What a disgrace. On the day Lee got married, Nash Pei smashed bowls and chopsticks at home, already in a foul mood. Father Pei saw the mess all over the floor. He slapped Nash Pei on the head with such unexpected force that both the man and the chair were knocked over. By the time anyone realized what had happened, Nash Pei had hit the back of his head on the ground and lost consciousness. When I heard the news, Nash Pei had already been lying in the hospital for half a month. It was said that the doctors had issued critical condition notices more than once, urging the family to take him home to prepare for the funeral arrangements. Upon hearing this, Lee brought her uncle's entire family to Nash Pei's house and refused to leave, forcing Wang Lan to sell her job position to gather enough money to pay off the debt before they finally departed. Oh dear. It's so heartbreaking that one can't even close their mouth in sorrow. One with the support of my elder brother, sister-in-law, and parents, I was admitted to university. Yes. I have a sister-in-law again, still the same person as in my past life. This time, facing the 200 yuan bride price demanded by my sister-in-law's adoptive parents, I ignored my hesitant parents and brother and immediately agreed on the spot. The shrewd foster parents cautiously proposed, only cash. No IOUs, hand over the money, hand over the child. My sister-in-law flushed with embarrassment, not daring to meet my brother's gaze. My heart ached deeply. In my previous life, my sister-in-law poured all the love she never received onto me. Later, when she faced difficulties, I never managed to repay her in the slightest. In the end, I even caused her to lose her life. This time, I found her a year earlier, after learning she was still willing to marry my brother. I exchanged a gold bar from the space for 2,000 yuan in cash to marry her. The precious treasures in the cave were carefully placed aside by me. In the future, these will be handed over to the state. I must also thank my past life's Nash Pei for working so hard to hide so much money. It was precisely because of his selfishness that I have such a wealthy life. He guarded against me his entire life, converting all his immense wealth into gold bars stored in the space. According to Lee, initially, this space required the blood of both her and Nash Pei, so it could only be accessed when the two of them were together. When she was alone, she tried countless times but couldn't succeed. This is also why Nash Pei was adamantly against cremation back then. After all, if he died, the wealth would be gone. The reason for Lee's madness lies more in the fact that, for some unknown reason, my blood dripped on it, and she could actually be brought in by me. I was utterly satisfied with that box of golden little goldfish. How can this not be considered revenge? You loved money so much, and now all the wealth you earned in your past life has fallen into my hands. Nash Pei, consider this your compensation to our entire family. I haven't been following the news about Nash Pei and Lee. The 1980s was the perfect time to seize the best opportunities. My brother, sister-in-law, and I took our parents south, with the help of space to conceal our wealth. We kept a low profile and pretended to be penniless as we went south to work, and so, after getting off the train, all the pockets and hidden layers of our clothes and pants were slashed to pieces. Fluttering in the air like colorful flags, finding joy in hardship, with my past life experience, I easily found a way to make money. At first, we shipped large quantities of new clothing from the south and sold them everywhere. The food items from later eras stored in the space could also be taken out and sold. Because they were all packaged in foreign languages and had unique flavors, all these products were bought at high prices by foreign capital. I now had a substantial amount of money in my hands. Later, the business grew increasingly prosperous. I took out a few more gold bars and quickly converted and sold them. I then purchased numerous shops and plots of land in what would later become prime locations in the southern district. Later on, the fixed assets kept increasing. I founded a company, achieving impressive and even staggering profits and cash flow. The annual tax payments were recognized by the city, honoring me as an outstanding entrepreneur. Sometimes, I wake up in the middle of the night, I can't even tell if my past life was real or just a dream of my own. My brother and sister-in-law had a baby, a pair of adorable twins, in her past life. My sister-in-law always regretted that her poor health due to childhood malnutrition prevented her from having her own children. After my son Jingfan was born, she loved him even more than I did as his mother. When Nash Pei took the whole family on vacation to the U.S., leaving Jingfan and me at home, even a little child can feel lost. Mom, why didn't Dad take us along? It seems like he doesn't love us that much. It was my brother and sister-in-law who traveled across several cities to come and comfort him. Jingfan said, Mom, Uncle and Aunt love me more than Dad and Grandma do. A small child, at an age when he yearned for familial love and longed for his father's approval, had already formed his own judgments. Thus, as an adult, he severed ties with his father without hesitation. When my efforts to fight for him proved futile, Jingfan comforted me, saying, Mom, let's leave him. I can take care of you. He has no heart for us. If there's any regret after being reborn, my only regret is my son from a past life. Jingfan, however, without a disappointing mother like me holding him back, in this life, he can choose a loving family and grow up happily. It was 20 years later when I returned to my long-lost hometown. As an outstanding entrepreneur, my brother and I were invited back together. After finishing my work, my little nephew Shinsi accompanied me to walk around the streets of my hometown. A few years ago, my parents returned to our hometown for retirement due to their homesickness. The hometown has changed so much. I haven't been back all this time because of my busy work schedule. Now, it's this little nephew who used to run back to his hometown every summer and winter vacation to escape the heat that has to be my guide instead. Auntie, try this fragrant date. It's really delicious. A couple of years ago, my dad brought some for American clients to taste, and they couldn't stop praising it. For the past 2 years, foreign merchants have been coming to discuss cooperation. Shinsi excitedly bought a portion of the local specialty from a roadside stall. Just as I was eagerly preparing to dig in, a passerby who had been standing nearby for a while asked uncertainly, Nova Shin, Jingfan. Looking out through the car window, it felt as if I had caught a glimpse of Nash Pei in his final moments before death in a past life. Why do I say that? Because I'm not entirely sure myself. If that gaunt and haggard man was Nash Pei, he would be 40 now, the prime of his life in that past existence. Yet his current appearance bears an uncanny resemblance to the twisted, pain-ravaged figure he became before his death. Thinking of how he just blurted out Jingfan, I smiled knowingly. Nash Pei, you've been reborn too. Seeing you so down and out, knowing you're not doing well, I'm truly delighted. Ignoring Nash Pei's frantic screams as he chased the car, I instructed the driver to drive straight ahead, watching Nash Pei's desperate and anxious expression in the rearview mirror. I suddenly recalled my past life. When Jingfan was 15, Nash Pei took the entire family, including Pei Yonan's son, to America. Jingfan pleaded in vain, then watched helplessly as the car drove away. Pei Yunan's son, Li Jiabao, maliciously instructed the driver to stop the car just as Jingfan was exhausted from chasing. Then, just as Jingfan's eyes lit up with renewed hope and he continued his pursuit, they sped away again. This cruel game repeated, drawing laughter from the entire family. Pei Yonan sent me a text message saying, Nova Shin, your son looks like a dog. Ha ha ha. I squinted, looking at Nash Pei in the rearview mirror. He bent over, panting heavily. I told the driver, stop the car. Nash Pei looked up, his eyes lighting up, and ran over with all his might. 20 meters, 15 meters, 10 meters, 5 meters, drive. By the time Nash Pei could run no more and collapsed by the roadside, panting heavily, the car circled around to his side. I looked at him with pity and sneered, Nash Pei, the way you look now, you're just like a dog. After returning, I had someone compile all of Nash Pei's records from the past decade or so. Surprisingly, Li had actually been reborn even earlier than Nash Pei, 5 years ago. The neighbors heard heart-wrenching cries coming from the dilapidated courtyard of the Nyo family. Divorce, the man I wanted to marry was never you. Fine, let's divorce, get out now. You useless hen, I don't want you anyway. The first thing Li did after being reborn was to file for divorce, and the second was to rush to the Pei residence to fervently pursue Nash Pei. At that time, Nash Pei was unwilling to work because his ambitions exceeded his abilities. a man nearing 40. He lazed around at home every day, indulging in comfort and idleness, unable to even find a wife. Wang Lan would lower her head whenever she went out, afraid someone might ask if her son had a girlfriend. So, any woman who came knocking, even if there had been past conflicts, was welcomed. Wang Lan also begged and pleaded to get married into the family. Nash Pei, holding the belief that a second marriage's first love is still moonlight by the window, half-heartedly agreed. One thought it was true love returning, while the other believed the other had hidden treasures. 2 years later, Li, unable to bear such a life of poverty any longer, accidentally pushed Nash Pei in a moment of frustration. Not only did it push Nash Pei into a comminuted fracture, but it also brought back the Nash Pei from the previous life. Under his threatening and hateful gaze, Li shrank into a quail-like ball. Shin Si finished reading with great confusion and asked me, "Auntie, this Li is so vain. Nash Pei has hit her so many times. Yet not only does she not run away, she clings to him tightly. I heard that whenever a woman approaches Nash Pei, she goes off like a shrew and starts cursing. Why, is she suffering from Stockholm Syndrome?" I smiled faintly and tossed the documents in my hand aside. For money. When a person has seen and possessed a vast treasure, they never want to lose it again. They'll fight tooth and nail, even go mad, to hold on to it. Let's add some fun for him. Give him a little excitement. The moment was ripe. I secretly contacted national authorities and donated the treasures from the cave, for safety. I even took the items out in advance and stored them in the sturdy basement of the villa. Even so, it took over a month to complete the entire process. Countless archaeologists carefully held seemingly unremarkable scrolls and fragments, placing them reverently into boxes. I urged from the side, "Hurry up. There's still so much over there. How long is this going to take?" A few white-bearded leaders glared at me and kicked me out, blaming me for breathing too loudly. My brother and sister-in-law held honeydew melons, munching away happily in the yard. When the task was over, those same white-bearded men held my hands in gratitude, tears in their eyes, when I tentatively asked, "Could you leave me a few as souvenirs?" The white-bearded men immediately released their grateful handshakes and quickly got into their cars to leave. Their expressions changed as quickly as the weather. For the past 2 months, Nash Pei has been trying to get close to me under various pretexts, was perfectly controlled by the bodyguards and government-arranged personnel. It's said he's gone completely mad, tears streaming down his face. He kept muttering to himself, "Nova Shin loves me, she will marry me, and we'll have an outstanding son," a picture of lovesickness bordering on obsession. No wonder there's a lyric in later generations that goes, "A man's 3 tears can act you into intoxication." Outside the house, Nash Pei, disguised as a cleaner, was dragged away by security like a dead dog. I burst out laughing, just imagining Nash Pei, reborn, sneaking and struggling to climb to that cliff edge, going through countless hardships, full of confidence in striking it rich, only to arrive at an empty and spotlessly clean cave. The mere thought of his appearance fills me with immense joy, especially since he holds multiple roles. On one hand, he toils tirelessly to serve Li while keeping it a secret. And on the other, he's desperately searching for me. Now, he even has the added burden of reporting the actor's scenes to me every day. However, he probably won't be able to act for much longer, the white-bearded official with the highest rank said. Although many precious artifacts cannot be revealed to the public for now, some that are less significant can gradually be displayed, showcasing our national treasures to the world. It's likely that Nash Pei will soon see the treasures he's been longing for on television. The moment the news about the artifact exhibition is confirmed, I sent people to post flyers near the street where Nash Pei lived, to ensure he wouldn't miss the news in case he wasn't home. I even went the extra mile by broadcasting free TV advertisements throughout the city. Blockbuster Cultural Relics Exhibition comes to Wencheng, Tang Dynasty Jade Carvings, Song Dynasty Blue and White Porcelain, Qing Dynasty Secret Flower Vases. That white-bearded man is truly a good person. In my previous life, they were Nash Pei's most cherished knickknacks, secretly kept in the study to fondle and admire. After I casually mentioned it, he actually went out of his way to prioritize displaying them. He really gets things done. There are still more good people in this world. Take me, for example. Isn't it all to prevent Li from being deceived, meticulously arranging everything? Upon hearing that Lee and Nash Pei had a big fight at home, I immediately arranged for someone to accompany me to watch the spectacle. Shin Si eagerly grabbed a handful of melon seeds and got into position. I was utterly disgusted. Why are you so fond of gossip? Who on earth do you take after? Shin Si. Auntie, of course. Mom says I'm just like her. Both of us are straightforward, kind-hearted souls. Me, that makes perfect sense. Hand me some seeds. Inside the Pei family courtyard, Lee's shrill voice screamed in accusation. Nash Pei, you big liar. The items were never in your possession. No wonder you kept asking about Nova Shin every day. All the treasures are in her hands. You've been deceiving me all along. Nash Pei, you're the fool. Those things were originally in your hands in the past life. How could you let Nova Shin take them back? Idiot. Useless. Lee. You've ruined my entire life. Without Nova Shin, without the treasure, you're nothing but a worthless, pretty-faced fraud. You couldn't even pass a regular worker's interview. You good for nothing, a complete failure, living off women. How disgraceful. Shin's words, that's some really satisfying cursing. I heard that Lee wants a divorce, but Nash Pei absolutely refuses to agree. His exact words were, in our past life, you enjoyed wealth and luxury with me. So this time you have to stay and rot in the mud pit with me. They fight each other every day, beating each other black and blue. The neighbors went from initial disgust and attempts at mediation to eventually becoming accustomed to it. Nash Pei's parents passed away prematurely a few years ago due to overwork, leaving no one to care about them anymore. Pei Yonan married an ordinary man. She encountered a mother-in-law who was sweet-faced but black-hearted, enduring daily pressure from both her husband and mother-in-law. Once, I passed by her on the street. I heard her muttering indistinctly, "This isn't how it should be." In my dreams, my brother was a great professor who would take me to America. My husband and son treated me well, and even my mother-in-law fawned over me. No, this isn't right. After that, I stopped listening to any news about them. As long as they remain forever stuck in the mud like this, they'll never blossom. I still have my own path of flowers to walk in life, so I won't keep you company. Shin Si sent a message. Auntie, let me take you on a trip to America. Sure,